What's up, y'all? Kid Comma 11 back with another video. And today I wanted to talk about something that I think is real prevalent right now. So many people are talking about it, the MVP race. We have this article here talking about why the NBA's 65 game award minimum is a failed idea, creating more problems than it solves. And of course, this is becoming real prevalent now with the MVP race, with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander being at risk of fouling out. Nikola Jokic already not being eligible, most likely because of already missing 17 games, I think, with due to a knee injury. If we take a look at Tom Habestra's tweet over here, right, we can see, based off of this graphic, that the winner might be Cade Cunningham, which I have no issues with. Cade Cunningham, Big Rusty, as I like to call him, the overachieving Detroit Pistons. He's leading them to argue the best win percentage in the NBA, I think. And based off of how tonight goes, some may call them the best team in the NBA. If Shea misses two more games, he's at risk of missing. Luka's already out. Wemby's already out. And now the question is, why have a 65 game rule in the first place? In the totality of NBA history, there's only been one MVP in an 82 game season to win an MVP, and that was the late great Bill Walton. If you've played under 65 games, you're probably not going to win. But now the question becomes, if Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays 64 games instead of 65, is he eliminated from contention despite having the number one seed, having a true shooting percentage considerably higher than Cade Cunningham, already having the shine of being not only an NBA champion and Finals MVP? I feel like it's the right play for basketball to give Shea the MVP. But if he plays 64 games and he's ruled out because of this arbitrary rule that was instilled just to entice players to not load manage anymore, I mean, that becomes kind of dangerous, doesn't it? The first point really is, if there's one game separating Shea from winning the MVP versus not, and he has to play at least 20 minutes, and let's say he plays hurt, and let's say that something bad happens to him, right? And then now he's not able to compete for a championship. He's already inflicting bodily harm upon himself for something he shouldn't have to do, because he already delivered an MVP caliber season. I feel like the voters should be able to vote for whoever they want. Having a strict limit, I understand the goal. Adam Silver doesn't want people to be load managing. He wants players to play as many games as possible, right? But is this really the way to do it? If Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays 64 games and doesn't win his second MVP, and Cade wins his first, I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not against Cade winning an MVP. But what type of precedent are we setting here? Excellence isn't rewarded. We have arbitrary, playing 78% versus 79% of games played. You cannot tell me there's a difference between 65 games and 65 games and 64 games played in a regular season. That doesn't make any sense. But the other thing that I think is a lot more damaging in what Sam Quinn details here, I think we should go ahead and look into, is the All NBA kind of fiasco, right? Because this applies not only to the MVP award, it also applies to the DPOY, it applies to the All NBA voting. And now All NBA is where it gets dicey, because that's more than likely where players are able to make more money. If we look at the Supermax eligibility extension, if a player is named to an All NBA team in the most recent season, they're able to get 25%. I mean, rather, they're able to get 30% of the cap versus 25% of the cap. And if they're over that age, like they're in their seventh or eighth season, then they start at 35% instead of 30%, right? It's a difference of 5%. If we take a look of the difference, taking the current NBA salary cap, which is $154 million, we multiply that by 5 and set that over a period of 5 years, that's $38 million, right? Even if you want to say it's 4 years, we'll get $30 million, right? $30 million over, let's say, 5 games, right? Games that you wouldn't otherwise play because you were hurt. I mean, when we look back at what Rick Carlisle was saying about one of his players, where the NBA suggested shooting him up with some medicine after he couldn't hold a basketball in his hand. What precedent are they trying to show here? And additionally, looking in this article, there's also something I wanted to point out, right? Now, remember, the 65 game rule was, carefully constructed by Adam Silver and the people at the league offices, very smart people, to basically make this threshold as harmless as possible. Being like, it's like, I don't know if you guys have used AI or anything like that, but you're trying to train a model in order to include all of your use cases or all of your certain data points. You want to have all of them be classified as their correct classification, right? As their correct label, I should say, right? That's what the NBA attempted to do here, and it works pretty well. I mean, take a look over here. We're looking in the article from Sam Quinn, taking a look at between 1999 and 2011 lockout. Out of 180 players that are selected as All NBA, only 7 of them, or just under 4%, went to players who suited up less than 65 times, right? But since that 2011 lockout, all the way up to the point where they instituted the 65 game minimum, we see that 13% of players got an All NBA nod despite playing less than 65 games. Now, like I said before, this was the most harmless threshold in order to try and classify people as accurately as possible. Now, you could say, okay, it's under 20%, it's under 13%, or it's only 18 players over like how many, like what, 10 years or something like that, right? But you think about it, the NBA is small, and the circle of stars in the NBA are even smaller than that. We're talking about the top 15 players in the world here. If we're going to mislabel a top 15 player in the world with tens of millions of dollars for one of the 30 franchises to have to deal with when they're attempting to build a franchise or attempting to build a championship contender, that can really be serious. We take a look at this number, it's about 10%, right? 18 to 20 players. We take a look, that's like 2 players a year that are mislabeled. Now, of course, there could be like some edge cases, not edge cases, but like, they're kind of neck and neck, and they give it, the other guy kind of edges out because of the 65 game rule. But let's say that, maybe you have one every 2 years or once a year that they're mislabeled, right? Now they're able to get 5% more of the salary cap. Now the team has to try and build a championship contender with, we're going to say it's probably a young player, it doesn't matter what type of player, with 5% less of the cap to deal with. And in this extremely punitive era that the NBA is currently in with a second apron, 5% could be make and break for a lot of teams, right? Good on for the player and everything, but like if it wasn't deserved, then why did they get it? I think that's the root of the issue here. If it wasn't deserved, why do they get it, right? If Shea plays 63, Jokic plays 62, Cade plays 60, he plays 70 plus, saying he's on pace for playing 73. Cade is on pace for playing 73 games. There's a difference of 8 games between 2 of the most, mercurial players that we've seen in the NBA versus a guy who's great and all, but is a high volume shooter. He's a standard MVP candidate if we didn't have these 2 supernovas that played in this league along with him. And it's just a question, like, why would you create a rule that could potentially not award excellence? If I'm Shea and I play 63 games and I can't win the MVP because I had an abdominal strain, I was out for a certain period of time. As soon as I came back, my team became much better, right? And they showed to be better than the second Detroit Pistons. I'd be hot. I'd be hella mad. I'd be so furious, right? So I don't know. These are just my thoughts. I don't know why the NBA put this in a thing in the first place. Because it's like, if you play under 65 games and you haven't been voted in, why would it matter? I understand it creates a sense of urgency, but it almost feels like the sense of urgency is now like tipped in the opposite way, to the point where it's like we're still see load management. But it's like now, okay, when someone actually gets hurt and they're actually pushing on that boundary, now all of a sudden it's like we got to play because either we're playing for extra 30 million or we're playing for our legacy, which matters, Like I want Cade. I want Cade to have an MVP, great, but like the fact that Shea can't win a second MVP, like sure we want the players to play, but should we allow these little tiny little cutoffs be the make or break? I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts.